Hi, welcome to this tutorial on how to make your very first iOS app. So we're going to start in the obvious place, and that is by opening Xcode. Now when you start opening Xcode, you're given options of get started with a playground, which is a great place to just mess around, create a new Xcode project, or clone an existing project. So what we're going to do is going to go and create a new Xcode project. Now this is your first app, so we're going to start off very basic, and we're going to choose iOS, which is obviously the mobile, so for your iPhones, and we're going to choose single view app. And click on next. Product name, we're just going to call this my first app. Leave use core data unticked, include unit test, include UI test, so leave everything as standard. And we're going to leave the language as Swift. Find a place to save it, so I'm just going to save this one on my desktop. And there we go, we've got our very first app already created. So this is the basic information you get about your app when you start and create a new one. So the display name, bundle identifier and so on. Bit of information about the sign-in, deployment info. So we've got a target of 11, which means iOS 11. If you want to, you can try and target that at a lower version of iOS, although it's recommended that you always try and target the highest version possible. Devices, so you can choose whether you just want to produce an app for iPhone or iPad. We're going to leave it as universal. Interface, we're going to leave it as main. And again, just leave everything else as the default that they are. So to keep it simple, we're going to go and look at the main storyboard. And we can see that a box, which is roughly iPhone shaped, comes up. And this is basically your view controller, the initial view controller that will launch when your application launches. So at the moment, we've got a nice blank white screen. And what we want to do is start actually putting some elements in there. Now what you can do is you can go into your view controller and create new Swift files and do this all in code. One of the great things about Xcode is that you can actually use it as a visual editor. So if we just open this bar a bit, give us a bit more visibility of it, what we can see here are different elements that you can drag across into your view controller in order to create sort of UI elements for your application. So if we scroll down, you can see you've got labels, buttons, text fields, sliders, steppers, stack views. So let's start off very simple, and let's just drag a label over onto view controller. And you can see, simple as that, you now have a label. So you now have an application that has a label titled label. If we launch this into the simulator, there's our label on a plain white background. So let's go back into Xcode and just stop the simulator running. So that's a good start, but obviously a label on its own is not much use to anyone. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a button in there so we can use a bit of functionality as well. Just move that down a bit so we can see a bit of this detail. So let's just quickly go back to the label. Now on the right hand side here you've got sort of a sidebar full of lots of information and properties about this label, and lots of little sub menus that you can go on here. So you can see identity and type, a little bit of quick help, so we can see that this is a UI label. It gives you a good description there that comes from the Apple sort of developer documentation that you can get online. Identity inspector, so we can see that this is using the class UI label, which is a standard class within iOS. You can, if you want, build your own class and use that label to work off your own class. And here we have some standard properties. So what we've got here in this second sort of box down is what the default text will be for the label. So we're just going to override this and just type in my text label. You can see that the text within the label changes. So if we just sort of widen it a little bit to make it more visible, And again, same for the button. We have here and sort of an unmarked box that says button. We're going to call this my button. Nice and original. And again, let's just make the box a bit wider so that we can see what's written in there. So now we've got sort of the beginnings of a very, very basic app. We've got a text field and we've got a button. So if we launch that in the simulator, we can there see now we've got the my text label and the my button. But clicking on the my button does absolutely nothing. So what we need to do is connect this button up to some functionality. So to do that, we're just going to move up here into the top right. I'm going to use this, which is the assistant editor, which will show you the storyboard alongside the code that's within the view controller. So one tip here, what you can see is obviously we've got here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different columns of information, which is all a bit much to sort of take in, and you're not going to be using all this at one time. So to free up a bit of screen real estate, what we can do is we can use these buttons up in the top right hand corner just to get rid of some of these extra columns that we're not going to be using. It gives us a bit more space, a bit more room to work, and also makes things a bit clearer and a bit easier to work on. So what we need to do here is we look at the view controller, and we've got only the very basic functionality that comes with it. So we can see that we've got a class of view controller which inherits from the UI view controller, which again is a standard iOS class. And that's doing all the work that when we run the simulator, you can see that it presents us with the page and displays everything that we need to. So that's all working fine, but we've got no way of interacting with these two objects within this view controller. So to do that, what we need to do is we need to select the object. If we hold down Control, and we can drag that across into the view controller. And we create an outlet. So you can see connection there, outlet, object view controller, which is the object here. Name, we're going to call this my text label. Type UI label, which is the type that it is, and storage week. And we just click on connect. And we'll see we now have an item within our view controller. We have an object, which is a UI label object called my text label. And if we just do the same thing again with the button, so we hold down Control, we drag it across, wait until the blue line is where we want it to be, which is just underneath our text label, and let go. I'm going to call this my button. Click on connect. So we now have these two objects here that we can interact with. But there's an even quicker way of doing that using the storyboard. So we see the button here. What we want to do is again hold Control, drag it across. This time I'm going to drag it towards the bottom of the code. So keep it within this last curly brace here. And just hold Control, drag it across and let go. And this time, in this top box here, instead of an outlet, what we're going to do is we're going to create an action. So what this is going to do is it's going to give us an action based on that button. And here, if you look at the event parameter we've got here, this is basically what action to take when this event happens. So touch up inside basically means press the button. You're touching the button within the boundaries of the button itself. We just click on event, you can see there's all sorts of different actions that you can put in there. Touch down, touch cancel, value changed. So we're going to leave that one as touch up inside. Then we need to give this action a name. So we're going to say my button pressed. I'm going to click on connect. And now we have a function within our view controller that when the my button is pressed, execute the code in between these curly braces. And obviously at the moment we don't have any code in there. Now again, we're only building a very basic app here, and whenever you build your first app within a new language, it's tradition that you use a hello world example to create your new app. So that's what we're going to do here. When you click on My button, we're going to change the My text label to say Hello World. To do that, it's very simple. First of all, we want to use the object My text label to say that's what we're changing. So we start typing it in, and we can see that the autocomplete that's built in Xcode helps us out here. So we can just press enter, and it'll finish the rest of it. Now the text of the text label is actually a property. So to do that, we're going to use a dot, and then we can see all the properties that come up. And this is because My text label is a UI label, and a UI label is a standard object within iOS which has with it all sorts of different properties and actions. So you can see here V for variable, M for method, and these are all the different things that you can do with this standard iOS object. And what we're going to do is we want to change the text. So you can see there the variable that is a string, and it says text. So my label dot text. And we're just going to go equal to Hello World. And what we've done there is we've said that when this button is touched up inside, we're going to set the My text label dot text variable to equal Hello World. So if we just run that in the simulator, you can see here we've got the My text label and the My button in their sort of standard form. Click on My button and the text changes to Hello World. And that's it, you've built your very first iOS app. If you've enjoyed this tutorial, please click on the like button. If you want to see more, please click on subscribe.